Hello, I'm Tari. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be showing you how to make a beaded pin. This video was requested by Tembisa. So there's a question I get a lot and it's about the type of thread that I use. And this is it. It's a nylon fishing twine and that's the brand name. Sangara fishing twine. And yeah, when you remove the wrapper, this is what it looks like. It's very easy to use. I really like it, and it doesn't snap easily. It's not going to snap. It only happened to me once, and the thread was under a lot of tension that I had put it through. So here's my pin. And I'm just going to start off by making a knot. This is the side that I will be using, not the side that opens, the other side. Yeah, so the side where the pin doesn't open that's the side that I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to start off by making a knot. I'll just make a couple of knots to make sure that my string is sitting nicely on the pin, and I pull tight. There. I'm not satisfied, so I'm just going to do another one. There. That looks all right. So now I'm going to start adding beads on my pin. I'm going to be using a brick stitch for my foundation. So I'm going to pick 2 beads to start. I'm using these small plastic beads. So I've picked 2. And now I'm going to take my needle. This is the direction where my thread is, where my needle is. So just hold tight the beads and the thread with your finger. Now I'm just going to take my needle and put it through the pin. Pull out my thread. Make sure your beads stay in place. And now from this side, I'm going to put my needle through the 2 beads. Like that. My thread came out. First it was here on this end, then I put my needle through the space and then through the beads, and I pull out my thread. And there I have my first 2 beads sitting on the pin. This is what you should have. And now I'm going to pick 2 beads. There are my 2 beads. I'm going to push them down. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Hold the beads, the pin, the thread, find a way to just balance it out. Now I'm going to put my needle through the pin like that. I pull it out, and then I'm going to put my needle through those 2 beads that I've just picked. I pull out my thread. And that's what I have. I'm going to pick more beads. Put my needle through the pin. And then through the beads. see I'm making progress. So I'm just going to demonstrate this 2 more times in case you haven't quite understood what's going on. I've picked my 2 beads, I let them fall down, I put my needle through the pin, I pull out the thread, keep holding your beads and your pin in place. It doesn't matter if your beads move, your knot moves. The moment you just pull your thread tight, automatically it will just go where the others are. So I'm just going to push mine to the end there and pull. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get to this end. I want to feel this whole side of the pin with beads. I have more beads there. Put my needle through the pin, pull my thread. So make sure that the beads stay on the other side of the pin and your thread comes out on this side. If you put your needle the wrong way, your beads will just fall out. Your thread has to go around this pin. That is how you add the beads to the pin. There. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I get to this end. So this is the progress that I have made. I made 20 ladders with my ladder stitch and I have my foundation ready. So now I'm moving on to the next step. I'm going to put a border with black and I'll be moving on to a herringbone stitch. So when you are doing your foundation, make sure that the total number of your ladders are an even number, because with the herringbone stitch you add 2 beads at a time, so you can't have an odd number. If your ladders in total are an odd number, just add another one or remove another one so that it's an even number. So I'm going to be using black to make borders, and I'm just going to put my needle through the second bead from where I left off. This is my last bead. I'm just going to put my needle through just the first bead at the top, and I pull my thread, and then I'm going to put my needle through this one next door from the bottom going up like that, and I pull my thread all the way out. I'm going to pick 2 beads, 2 black beads, and I'm going to put my needle through this bead right here. Remember, I said it will be done in 2s, so I'm just going to leave this one and put my needle through the one that comes after, and I pull my thread. And then I'll put my needle through the bead that's next to it from the bottom going up. You see that? I pull my thread and I pick 2 beads. I'm not going to put my needle through this one, but through the one that comes after it, just that first bead at the top. Just that first bead, like that. And then I'll put my needle through the bead next door. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I am at the end. Alright, so this is the progress that I've made. I'm just adding my last 2 beads, but I made a mistake. I made a mistake at the beginning. When I started adding my beads for the border, the first one here was supposed to be white. So when you're adding your beads, please make the first one a white one for the border. White, then black. I'm so sorry about that. It's just that today is one of those days where I really wasn't willing to undo. Bad me. Sorry. So yeah, I'm done with that line for the border, and now I'm going to be moving on to green. I'm going to pick 2 green beads, and before I pick the beads, my needle came out through here, right? So I'm just going to position it correctly by putting it through that bead that is right there at the top, and I pull my thread like that. Alright, so before I make a mistake like what I did the previous time, I'm going to start off by picking 1 white bead and 1 black bead, because the outer border all the way going upwards is going to be white and the second one is going to be black. So I'm going to pick 1 white and 1 black, and then I'm going to add those first by putting my needle through that bead, the second bead from where my thread came out. I pull my thread, and then I'm going to put my needle through that third bead. Alright, so now I can move on to green. So I'm going to add my beads like that first. Pull my thread and just make sure that your beads are sitting neatly like that. That is how they're supposed to sit. Then I put my needle through that bead that's after it. I'm going to pick 2 beads again and add them on. Yeah, so that's how it goes. I'm going to keep adding my beads, green all the way. All right. So this is the progress that I've made. And to finish off, I'm just going to add 1 black bead and 1 white bead. Don't forget the borders. It's always going to be black and white to finish off your borders. I'm just going to turn that around, and from where I am, I'm just going to put my needle through that bead at the top. Yes, there'll be some string showing on the outside, but it doesn't matter. That is how the stitch goes. So I'm going to move on to my 4th line, and I'm going to start off with my 1 white and 1 black bead first. So there's a faster way of doing it. Of adding the beads. Now I'm moving back to green. So once you get this right, you know how the stitch goes. I'm just going to show you a tip that I use. This is a method that I use. First, I put my needle through that first bead, and without letting my needle go out all the way, I just push it through that bead next door. If it's not clear, just use the first method, the method that I showed you the first time. It's just that if you are really familiar with a herringbone and you want to do things faster, finish off those pieces faster, you may want to try out this method. It's the one that I use. So I need 3 lines with green, so already I'm on the second one, so I'm going to finish this off and then I will do a third one, then I will show you the next step. This is the progress I have made. I have completed my 3 lines using green, and now I'm going to make another border line, but first I'm going to add my one white and one black bead. Pull my thread, and now I'm changing my color to black, just black all the way to the end. Here I'm going to be using black, so I've picked my 2 black beads and I'm going to add them like that. Just going to make sure that my beads are facing upwards, sitting neatly. I pick 2 more beads and I add them on. So yeah, you just keep adding black for this line until you're at the end. Ta-da! This is the progress I have made so far, and I just thought I would remind you about those borders, 1 black and 1 white, and I add them on. Don't forget this part, please. If your pattern is going to come out well, we have to get the borders right. All right, and I pull my thread. So I'm going to start off with the borders again, 1 white, 1 black, and I'm going to add them on like that. Make sure the beads are sitting neatly. So now I'm going to introduce a new color. I decided to go with orange first. The orange come after the borders, that black border. So that's 2 orange. I'm going to pick 2 orange beads again, and I'm going to add them on. Make sure the beads are sitting neatly before you move on. I'm going to pick 2 beads, 2 orange beads, and I'm going to add them on. Oops. So I finished adding my 2 orange beads, and things are going to change a little bit. I'm going to add 1 orange, then black. So you pick orange first, then black, and I'm going to add them on. And then now I'm going to change my colors again. I'm going to pick 1 black and 1 blue, 1 sky blue bead, and I'm going to add them on. Like that. So I'm going to keep picking the sky blue beads. On this end I'm putting sky blue beads. So I've picked 2 blue beads. going to pick 2 blue beads again. And I'm going to add them on. 2 blue beads. And I add them on. Now it is time to do that border. So I'm going to pick 1 black and 1 white. In that order, black then white. But that always changes when we turn. After turning, it will be 1 white, then 1 black. Alright, so now I'm going to pick 1 white and 1 black for my border. And I go back to blue. Now I'm on the other side, so I'm going to start off with the blue beads. And I add those 2 blue beads. I've picked 2 blue again. Now my colors are going to change. I'm going to pick 1 black and 1 red. Now I'm going to pick 1 red and 1 black. So now I go back to orange. I'm going to add 2 orange beads. Two orange beads again. And 2 orange beads. Now I'm at the border and I'm closing off this line with 1 black bead and 1 white bead. Just going to turn it, put my needle through that bead at the top and pull. So I'm back to 1 white and 1 black. And now I am back to orange. So I'm just going to pick 2 orange beads and add them to the pin like that. I'm going to add 2 orange beads. Oops, sorry about that. I'm changing my colors. 1 orange and 1 black in that order, and I add them on. So in the last line I introduced red, so now I'm going to pick 2 red beads I add them on. I'm going to pick 2 red beads again. Now I'm going to change my colors, 1 black and 1 blue. And now I'm going to go back to just blue. So I have my 2 blue beads. I'm going to add them on like that. 2 blue beads again. I'm almost at the end. Now I'm going to pick 1 black and 1 white. I turn my pin and put my needle through that white bead at the top, and I pull my thread. So I'm gonna stop here for today. Be on the lookout for the part 2 of this tutorial. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.